Taking control of an airline facing a battered reputation is no easy feat.
You're actually in the captain's seat,
I know.
so I'll just do whatever you say.
But Vanessa Hudson is prepared for turbulence.
I know the job is not done, so I'm not standing here today saying it is.
The Qantas boss has a plan to turn around the airline's fortunes.
We are going to continue to invest in customer experience, and we are going to continue to support our people to deliver the best that they can.
As airfares moderate, Qantas reported a full-year profit of $1.25 billion, down 28% on the previous 12 months, when it made a profit of $1.74 billion. $230 million was invested in improving services for customers, and it forked out $3.1 billion in spending, mostly on new aircraft. The airline's also buying back $400 million worth of shares to help boost the stock price.
They're warned about increased competition internationally, and the domestic business was actually the powerhouse, particularly Jetstar. Two of their competitors, Bonza and Rex, have just fallen over, so they're more dominant than ever in the Australian market.
Customers agree.
I've just been on a Qantas flight and we were half an hour delayed, and the staff were lovely, but it's just like, it just happens all the time.
I think the average person thinks that any company that's making billions of dollars of profit should be giving some of the money back.
Vanessa Hudson's been with the airline for the long haul after standing beside Alan Joyce during his tumultuous reign.
They are over the worst of it, that they are rebuilding trust with their customers and other stakeholders like their staff, who they are investing in. So I think Qantas effectively has dodged a bullet here.
Following new laws to ensure labour hire workers receive the same pay as company employees, Qantas struck a deal with flight attendants to give them pay rises of up to 30%.
These are people who wear exactly the same uniform, do exactly the same work, on exactly the same rosters, but have been treated as second-class citizens and been paid less than the employees they work alongside. And from today, that ends.
It will cost the airline about $60 million and affect more than 3,000 workers.
For years and years and years now, I've just struggled to get ahead. I've been looking to put some money aside to be able to buy a house, and it's just life-changing.
I actually think that under Vanessa Hudson's leadership, there has been a real change, a real shift in how business is being done.
But Hudson says the pay rises will keep pressure on airfares.
Cost up and no productivity offset, that does erode our competitive position. We are going to have to look to find ways to offset that.
The airlines also lost out on costly legal battles, including a $128 million settlement with the consumer watchdog over selling flights that were already cancelled, and another $70 million set aside to compensate about 1,700 workers who were illegally sacked during the pandemic. And with the airline still facing class actions, the rough winds are set to continue for Australia's flying kangaroo.
And I spoke to Vanessa Hudson after the results announcement at the Sydney Flight Centre. Vanessa Hudson, welcome to the business.
Thanks for having me.
You've announced the biggest fleet renewal in the company's history. How much is it going to cost and how long is it going to take?
Well, it's an exciting period of time. As you say, it's the biggest fleet renewal in our history. It will see new fleet for Jetstar, for Qantas Domestic, for regional Qantas, and also for Qantas International. So it will take many, many years, potentially over a decade. And the most important thing about the fleet renewal is that the new aircraft that are coming, we're in a technology cycle where these aircraft are significantly better in the way they perform versus the aircraft that they replace. They've got lower noise, better fuel efficiency, so great for the business in terms of lower cost of fuel, but really important for the environment because lower emissions. These aircraft will have new interiors, so better for customers, but the range and capability of these aircraft will enable us to be able to fly to different ports that we currently can't fly economically today.
So have you put a price tag on how much it's going to cost?
No, we don't actually give a long-range price because every year we have a certain amount of capital that we're allocating to that fleet because we've got to be always in balance. Over 10 years is a long time. There'll be different demand cycles, there'll be different competitive cycles. So we are very mindful of making sure always to replace the fleet as quickly as we can, but to do that in balance.
Why has it taken so long to renew the fleet?
It hasn't taken so long to renew the fleet. It's the right time to renew the fleet. And so any fleet globally will actually, any airline will fly that fleet to the end of what would be that fleet's normal life. And that's around 20 years. And so we're just in that time where our fleets are getting to the point where they need to be renewed. But most importantly, we have aircraft technology to replace that fleet that is better than the fleet that you are replacing. And that's the really important point, because, you know, if we had replaced the fleet earlier, we would have been replacing it with very similar aircraft. So it's really, really fortunate we're at this point.
So you don't think that Alan Joyce has left you with the burden of a huge cost base now to replace this?
No, I don't. Because I do think that the fleet planning process at Qantas is so sophisticated. It's been the same for decades. And I was actually a part of the team that led the fleet renewal when I was the CFO, and I think we made the right fleet decision at the right time.
Now you've got fleet renewal costs, you have a Jetstar class action pending, federal court determination on the sacked ground workers, costs of the same job, same pay agreed with the Flight Attendants Association, and further IR reforms coming into play. Costs are rising in the business. Is that going to be reflected in ticket prices for consumers?
So the legal disputes and settling that and the provisions that we've made for that, we've recognised that outside of our underlying result, and that's a one-off. So no, that is a cost, and that's a cost that the organisation will bear. The comments that I've made about the impact on same job, same pay, that is a cost, particularly a disproportionate cost to Qantas International, which is exposed to a very competitive environment. 55 airlines we compete with internationally, and having costs rise without productivity offsets does erode our competitive position. This will result in our labour costs being 3 times the cost of what our Middle Eastern competitors would be or Asian competitors. So we are going to have to find ways, and we are looking ways to mitigate that. In the short term, that's going to mean that there is pressure remains on fares, but there will be initiatives that we look at to offset that cost with other programs.
Qantas has been criticised for being very competitive with Rex and in fact leading to its demise. Do you think that criticism has been fair?
I would say that we welcome competition, and we welcome competition in any market that we have been in. We have been reviewed by the ACCC over many, many years, both in the regional markets and also the domestic markets, and the ACCC has never found any case to question in terms of the way we compete. I would say with regard to Rex, we were really sad to see them in the position that they are. We really do hope they find a pathway out of administration, particularly for their regional business. But we will continue to focus on the investment that we are making in our regional network. We've ordered another 14 aircraft to refresh and renew our fleet. And it does come back to one point. Aviation is a hard business. It's a capital intensive business. And you absolutely have to maintain a certain level of profitability to be able to renew your fleet, because that ultimately is what will create sustainability going forward.
Do you think the Australian aviation market can sustain more than 2 airlines without government support?
I think the Australian aviation market is one of the most open markets in the world. We have open skies with many countries internationally, and as I said before, 55 carriers are operating into Australia, and many of them can add capacity without needing to seek permission. Domestically as well, I would say Australian domestic aviation market is equally as open and more open than any other domestic market in the world, and I do believe that we will see competition come. So our focus is making sure that we deliver what is to our customers value for money. Jetstar, in the Qantas Group we have Jetstar. Jetstar has given access to aviation to a segment of Australians that weren't able to afford travel. We have millions of fares. Last year, 11 million fares under $100. That has been amazing, and we'll continue to do that. We'll also continue to deliver value through Qantas and premium leisure customers as well. And so customers have choice, and they're choosing. So we will always be up for competition and welcome it.
The Board Commission McKinsey report called out a top-down culture under Alan Joyce's leadership. Is that changing under your tenure?
I'm very focused on leadership that is inclusive, I'm also very focused on being a leader that's very visible to our frontline people, both our cabin crew, our pilots, our ground services teams. I'm out there talking to them all the time. And I think a really important part of my leadership style is listening, spending a lot of time listening, but actually taking that feedback and doing something about it. And that's what we're going to continue to do.
Do you think the bonus cut of $9 million to Alan Joyce's take-home pay was tough enough?
Well, that was a matter for the board. I know what they went through, a really big process to arrive at that decision, and I respect the process that they went through.
A share buyback today, $400 million, but no dividend yet for investors. When will that come, and do you have the balance right between customers and shareholders?
So we are really pleased to announce the on-market buyback. We think that where we are now, we don't have sufficient franking credits to announce a franked dividend, but we are paying tax, and so we have flagged that we will be in a position to consider a franked dividend in the half, and that's of course subject to our board making that decision. We are always focused on getting the balance right, and we will never though say job done, because things change and we've got to be constantly listening to our investors, listening to our people, but listening to our customers and making sure that we are always challenging ourselves on getting that balance right.
You said the greatest challenge for the aviation industry is decarbonisation. How far away is sustainable aviation fuel?
So we're picking up sustainable aviation fuel now, so it's here and now, and we're picking up that out of Paris and also out of London, and we'll be starting to pick that up out of the US in the next 12 months. We're making investments here in Australia. We're working with the government, Queensland government, but federal government, and we've got an investment in Queensland with Jet Zero, where hopefully we will be producing sustainable aviation fuel out of sugar cane from North Queensland within the next couple of years. So it's a long way, it's a new industry, it's a new product, but we are very optimistic that there are lots of pathways for us.
Vanessa Hunton, thank you so much.
Thank you.